Dangerously Close.
My guest today is Sasha Srbulj. Sasha is a stand-up comedian and creator of the comedy special Artificial Ignorance on Amazon Prime. He performs regularly at major clubs in New York and around the US and internationally. His inspiration is mostly drawn from the feeling of this can't be it, and the faint notion that buying more crap may not be the path to peace and fulfillment. Sasha has traveled the world and found peace of mind nowhere. Performances in Paris, Barcelona, Los Angeles, and all over New York have done nothing to quench the turmoil of his mind, growing like tendrils of curly hair from an ever more confused head. Audiences find the entire process very amusing. You can find his sensibility in the nooks of consciousness where the flashes occur like, I shouldn't be eating this, and we elected who? Somebody once described his comedy as whatever disease Gwyneth Paltrow is trying to cure. Join him for the descent. He's currently developing a new comedy special, which we should just plug that the fuck up top, man. In case you guys are wondering, blood type B and organ donor. What's up, Sasha?
Hey, how you doing, man? So thanks for that intro. Yeah, that is the previous intro. Yeah, it works. The only thing is it's no longer on Amazon Prime. They took it down after a couple of years, but it is on YouTube, so you can watch Artificial Ignorance on YouTube. And I am preparing a new special. I'm recording it in New York City on May 21st at New York Comedy Club. If anybody's in the area, come on down. Just New York Comedy Club on East 24th Street, 241 East 24th Street. May 21st, that's a Sunday at 5 and 7 p.m. So that'll be, and I think we're going to be talking about a lot of the topics I'm sort of going to cover in the new special. Yeah.
And just a little behind the scenes for you guys listening. Sasha told me, he was like, hey man, I'd love for you to tell your audience about this because I'd like for a bunch of smart people to show up to my show. And I think that you have a particularly smart audience. So he's talking about you. He's already said such nice things about you. If you're in the New York area on May 21st, fucking go over there.
Come on down.
Yeah.
Come on down. Yeah. 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 It's gonna be a good show. I mean, I've been preparing this material. If maybe you've seen me. I've been sort of touring ever since the pandemic allowed us to. I've been touring around the country and some parts of Europe as well, and just kind of getting this material ready. And it is sort of part of the special is talking about the pandemic or not, or like what I did and didn't do during the pandemic. And it's amazing how much I didn't do. There's not 1 inch of like self-improvement or I spent the year inside and I didn't do anything. I'm amazed that I came out basically, all I got was older. That's it. Like I didn't, your whole life, you're telling people like, well, if only I had more time, I'd get in shape. I'd eat right. I had all the time in the world. I didn't do anything. So it was like this weird, like self-discovery. And I was thinking like, only thing that I think, and it's just as me, I think a lot of people basically have the same experience. All that happened during the pandemic is we all went into our own bubbles.
Yeah.
Or like media bubbles or like Twitter bubbles or whatever. And when it opened, nobody could like get on a plane without getting into a fist fight. Remember how many of those there were?
Yeah.
There was like every freaking day there was some guy had to be dragged off of a plane because he didn't want to close the curtain or something. It was just insane. All right. Do you remember? I'm trying to put it like I was trying to understand this, and you remember who Ted Kaczynski was?
Yeah, the Unabomber.
The Unabomber. Yeah, right. So did you ever watch the documentaries about the Unabomber? Or
no, but I am pretty familiar with his work.
Yeah. So he was his work. Yeah, he was basically kind of normal. I mean, he was always a bit off. That's one of the things about all these mass murders. Like when the media arrives right after the tragedy to the house, to the neighbor's house, they're like, "Oh, he was such a normal guy.
He was so quiet. He was so nice."
But that's never, within a week they find out this guy was like torturing, raccoons since he was 2. But nobody wants to admit it right off the bat. Nobody, everybody's shocked when it happens. But basically, Ted, he was a bit off his whole life. But really, when he really went into, down the rabbit hole was when he started living in a cabin out in the woods.
Yeah.
And while he was in some sort of society, he was a professor, he was, working for his brother's company. While he had to communicate with people, it kept him in control a bit. It kept him a little bit normal. But
Yeah.
once he was alone with his thoughts, that was it. That's when he started, developing manifestos and making bombs and whatever. And I think that's kind of what we all did. We all, during the pandemic, we all went into our cabins and we just read our own, like, fueled now by this, by algorithms, and everybody came out crazy. And one of the things that's sort of reassuring I found is that it affected everybody. It didn't,
Yeah.
like, rich people came out even fucking crazier than everybody else. Like,
Yeah.
the softer your bubble was, the more comfortable, the more nuts you came out of it. The more you could, like, ensconce yourself and like just keep on ordering food and ordering, whatever, sex toys and whatever you
Yeah.
need, right? To come, you came out nuttier. And think of just like look at like Elon Musk going in and Elon Musk now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's
Just
the guy's
10
broken.
times he was a piece of shit before, but now it's like he's the biggest piece of shit on earth.
Kanye.
You're right.
Kanye.
He was a piece of shit
Kanye.
before, came out just like a
Yeah.
fucking Nazi. Like,
Exactly. I know. Putin, you know what I mean? Like, everybody, it seems like
Yeah.
the more powerful you were, the more this bubble kind of turned you into, like, whatever, the worst possible part of you.
Yeah.
And it's like coming into that. Now we're all back and we're all, like, bumping into our own bubbles, and I was very surprised at sort of Elon, like that example of Elon and Kanye and Putin. Like, you could draw a straight line to just how damaging their experiences was. So anyway,
I'd be willing
that's
to guess that none of those guys have like any cool hobbies. That's part of, like, because I feel like
you
for
know
someone like me, like I already have a bunch of hobbies. So I was like, I actually, kind of contrary to what you had to say, I was stoked on like the free time and shit. I was like, fuck it, I can focus on all this shit I want to do that doesn't make money.
Yeah. Oh, that I did, like, stuff that I wanted to do. I was like writing, random things but I didn't do anything productive. Like, I didn't get in shape or whatever. And
Yeah,
and the thing
that's tough.
about, like, I think one of the things that it also, like, it challenged our sort of belief systems. Like, somebody, like, one of the things one of the things you notice, like, is that I drive very early in the morning. Like, I'll drive at like 6 a.m.
You
Sometimes
drive
I
in
have
New
to get
York?
well, if I drive to, like, I have a car, I'm in Brooklyn, but if I have to go to a flight, I have to take early morning flights because they're cheaper.
Yeah,
And to make sure you get to a show in, like, wherever, Tennessee, for instance.
yeah.
Um, you notice something because I'm driving very early. There's no Teslas on the road at 6 a.m. There's no
Hmm.
BMWs. It's a lot of vans and a lot of pickup
Yeah,
trucks. And those people that are driving the fancy cars don't really work at 6 a.m.
yeah,
They don't, they're not waking up that early. So the whole meritocracy, I think, we also started questioning that because during the pandemic, we're like, oh, I guess the people we really need are the people we pay the least. It's
yeah,
the
yeah,
people we really need to survive are people we don't give a shit about. Like, we like. Meanwhile, everybody else is like, oh, I could just work from home. You don't even have to see them. So it was like that. And that also sort of the belief systems that I think America is kind of the one thing we all agree on, like, somewhat, whatever religion or part, there is, like, this belief in a meritocracy that, somewhere down the line, like, Elon Musk has money, whether you think he's an asshole or not, or whatever, he has money uh, because of some logic. There's a logic to him having money. But I think one of the things, like,
I
it doesn't
disagree,
seem
but
like it
go
doesn't.
ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's. I know a lot of people who have money, and it's some. I mean, for one, forget about the inherited stuff.
Yeah,
But even, like, just there are people who can fall ass backwards into money, who just
yeah,
get lucky.
yeah,
And if you have one particular talent that you can monetize, or that society in general has decided to monetize, then you have money. And if you don't, you could be a genius in everything else, but if it doesn't make money, society doesn't reward you. And I think that we're kind of like one of the things that coming out of the pandemic, especially because everybody kind of had money briefly. You had no expenses, and people kind of had, like, stimulus checks and whatever.
Yeah.
You realize kind of like, well, this is all bullshit. This is all kind of, a setup. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I just coming out of it, that bubble thing, the fact that our sort of the leaders became detached, and we're slowly getting out of it. Hopefully it's over. But I did start traveling a lot after once the pandemic, and it was interesting to see how different parts of the country were sort of reacting, and how things changed. Like weed became legal in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And then you'd fly from like New York to Texas, and it's a felony.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You'll be beheaded.
Yeah, it was insane. I mean, I'm not a weed guy, but like I know people who they'd be on the plane with you and they'd be like dumping things in the gar. Like I gotta, I don't know what's gonna happen if I cross the state border. Am I like now a felon? And that was weird. And then the other thing that changed is, and then on the other end, abortion became illegal some places, and now it's legal other places. So you have. I was in Tennessee. It was in Nashville, and I met a bunch of comedians. I mean, I knew Evan Burke from New York, but then I met a bunch of local comedians who were really great. Courtney Warner, who runs the show she runs a show at the Blue Room. What's his name's place? White Stripes guy, Jack White.
Oh, Jack White, yeah.
Yeah, his Third Man Records. They have a blue. She runs a great show there. I met Mariana Barksdale.
Is that a Third Coast comedy? I should know these things. I fucking live here.
Yes,
I've missed
so.
you.
Yeah.
Since I've met you, you've played 2 shows in Nashville. I've missed both of them because I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah. No.
Well, it wasn't.
It was all the same weekend, so you weren't there, so it's fine. But and it was. I met a bunch of great comedians there, and a lot of the female comedians. I don't know if it was Mariana Barksdale or Courtney.
Oh
Warner.
Yeah.
You know Mariana Barksdale? She's great too. I've met a bunch. I can't name them all, but somebody had a joke, or I heard the same reference like 2 or 3 times from different comedians, and it was about $600. Something about $600. I'm like, they would do a joke, and I'm like, it's okay, I have $600, and everybody would laugh. And I'm like, what's the $600 reference? I don't. And apparently, it's the amount of money you need to like drive to Illinois to get an abortion.
Oh shit!
It's just shorthand.
Yeah.
Between women over there, it's just that's what you need if the condom breaks, and it's like it almost like dystopian when when you're coming from a place where that's not a thing.
I mean, it's bizarre here because this is one of the things I feel like sometimes if you live in a place like New York or California or something, you kind of like can look at the rest of the country and be like, what the fuck? But like Tennessee, so. I'm sure when you visited and you're in Nashville, you feel like you're in a normal place because Nashville it's a city, so therefore it feels like you're in a normal place. But the fucking dumbass like jug hooting hicks that are in our state government, I mean these motherfuckers. I like right now. So you saw the thing they did where they kicked out the 2 black congressmen for protesting. Like the schools getting shot up with machine guns all the fucking time here. And they became national news and they were forced to reinstate them because it was insane. But right now they're doing some political shit against Nashville. We didn't want to host the RNC because it's just bad fucking juju. And so the state government is trying to eliminate. So our city council has 40 members. They're trying to eliminate 20 of the 20 city council members as a punishment to hurt Nashville for being like libtards. You know what I mean?
And the state government is in Nashville, right? It's the state capital, right?
Yeah, the state capital is here. So, but you take a guy like, I don't know if you're familiar with our governor. His name's Bill Lee. He's like an off-brand Ron DeSantis. He can't get the fame, but he's the same thing. He thinks he's going to be the president. So he's doing the MAGA shit and being like, I hate trans people. They're just fucking they're disgusting people, man.
I don't understand. I really don't get why people. I've been at like dinner. I mean, I have, I sort of operate in a wide variety of people. So I'm not just talking to blue state people, but I've been at like dinners where adults older than me would just break into a discussion about, you know, female weightlifting and how that one trans athlete's ruining it for all other female
like they ever gave a fuck about women's weightlifting.
I know, and it's just and I'm like, why do you people give a shit about this? I live in. I'll give you an example. This was just sort of the media bubble. Look, I get it. I was in Nashville. Nashville's a cool place, amazing food, music. I mean, just a lot of cool people, right? But the minute you like drive a bit further, you feel it. You feel like there's a bit of a, you know, you get why it's under kind of siege. And it's sort of, I'll give you an example from years ago. I live in Bushwick, which is, and I joke about this in my new special, like, you know, it's basically, I'm a liberal guy. In Bushwick, I'm Richard Nixon. All right. This is the most, this is like sure. Berkeley of Brooklyn. It's not even Berkeley. It's beyond, I mean, if they invent a new pronoun, it'll be here. You know, like it's the core of all this. And I remember I was going to visit my parents for Mother's Day, and they lived in Long Island at the time. And Long Island was like a 2-hour drive, right, from here. And, you know, in the suburbs. And, you know, and they were watching Fox News and whatever. And I would go to get like flowers and cake and whatever around here locally in Bushwick, in Brooklyn. And I was like, there's long lines. Everything's for Mother's Day. You know, there's the Happy Mother's Day at the florist, Happy Mother's Day at the cake shop. Happy, you know, there's basically trans people working at the bake shop and the flower store for Mother's Day, making me all these things to bring to my mother. I go to my mother and I give them the cake and whatever. Somebody was there, was like, well, can we even say Mother's Day anymore?
Jesus
like,
Christ. Yes,
I'm like, where are you?
You could say Merry Christmas too, man. You like,
where are you getting this? I literally bought this cake from the most blue-haired trans left-wing. I can't explain her anyway. And she wrote Happy Mother's Day on the cake. Like, where are you hearing this? They're just hearing all this stuff being piped in. You know, that's not real. It's the debate isn't real.
I agree entirely. And I was going to say, for what you said earlier with like, you know, having dinners with older Americans and having them act like this is just the most insane, you know, like that the world's being taken over. These people probably wouldn't even have an issue with trans rights. More than likely wouldn't even know it exists. But it's, you know, it's the fascist playbook right now is for them.
The minority.
It's the smallest and most defenseless minority for them to attack. So that is why every talking point out of every dumbass hick Republican like the governor of Tennessee or Ron DeSantis, or they're all going after trans people because they are the easiest target and they're the smallest group of people. And that's on the news. That's all. It's just blah, 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 blah. Trans, pronouns. Oh, this must be a deluge of this is what's happening in the world. Like,
exactly. They imagine that, you know, it's like the thing. If it's on your TV 24 hours a day, then you're just gonna imagine that. And they don't leave, you know, their suburbs, and they think that that's what's going on. Like I've had, so with respect to the trans issues that you keep hearing, I'm like, you know, like first of all, you mentioned older Americans. I think that's one of the things. Like we've been living in the past 5-6 years in sort of turbulent times, and every time anybody mentions that, they say it hasn't been this turbulent since the 60s or 70s. That's the last time it was this divisive. And the thing that happened back then, the reason why the 60s were so divisive is because you had the boomers, the biggest generation in history, not numbers wise, were taking power. They were coming into the age, into democracy. So all of a sudden they were voting and they were arranging the world according to them, right? So that's why you had turbulence. They were taking power away from the previous generation. So basically, what you're having now is the boomers are losing power and they're not giving it up. And it's amazing if you look at just how much of our world is created by boomers. I mean, the Rolling Stones, they were touring until like last year when Charlie Watts died. You know, Pearl Jam doesn't tour that often. You know, like the sort of the generations after have already like exited the scene culturally. The boomers are still running things. I mean, look at, we live in a gerontocracy. I mean, the president is in his 70s. The guy running for his, you know, is in his, the previous guy was in his 70s. Nancy Pelosi's also septuagenarian. She just left, right? The guy taking over isn't exactly a spring chicken, you know. everybody's old. And the reason why their resistance to any progress is because they're a huge generation and they vote. You know who takes the most testosterone in this country? Men.
Yeah.
Middle-aged old men take testosterone. Joe Rogan takes testosterone.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be a man.
Yeah.
It's, so these are sort of,
wow, that's kind of on point. Jesus Christ.
That's kind of, it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
But I think they find it's just something that they take it. It is an extreme kind of change in a person's life, and it is a very, it's on the far end of what most people will experience in their life. And then they make a straw man out of it. They're like, well, everybody's turning trans. No, like just go rewind. Like look at Ziggy Stardust, look at Boy George, look at, you could rewind the story. Like they were banning in Tennessee the thing about drag performances, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't transgenderism. It's a whole.
Literally, it's literally a show. It's a performative show.
Yeah.
What I think is fucking insane, man, is, and I'm not the first person to bring this up recently, but it's a film that I saw when I was a kid called Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, starring Patrick Swayze, Wesley Snipes, and John Leguizamo, where there are three drag queens that go on a road trip across America. And everybody loved it, and that was 1995. Like,
look. Somebody was saying you can't take somebody under 18 now in Nashville to Rocky Horror Picture Show because there's like, I don't remember, but there's some cross dressing or like, I mean, they don't know where the border is really. The law is written so terribly and like so. It was written on purpose to cause damage to those people.
Well, I would also say this too. I think it was purposefully written to be obscure and not to make exact sense, because that way it can be interpreted. If they continue to gain power, that law can mean all kinds of things. There's things that are actually written into that bill that can be used to outlaw interracial marriage. That's in the same bill. So the bill that outlaws drag queens also technically outlaws interracial marriage. It's all it's in the wording. It's that's what people are saying is like if you look at it and if you want to interpret it that way, you could use it for all. You could nullify marriages between people that are not. It's like are they getting pleasure out of it? Is it like I don't understand? Like they passed the law, all right? Are they really getting that much? It seems like they're getting way worse. Like I think the abortion laws that they passed just are hurting them politically. I mean, they're losing elections where they should win because they went too far. But it seems like again, if you're old and I don't know how much of old people are trying to buy a ticket to heaven. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know. Like I had this joke in the previous special where I was saying like, most people, once it doesn't affect them, now they're against abortion. Now that you can't have a baby, now you're against it. Like, because tick tock, here comes the Grim Reaper, and hey, I want to get to heaven. If in your mind you think voting against it is going to get you to heaven, then it's not going to damage you. So I don't know, like the whole transgender thing, again, it's not a large portion of the population. It's an issue that shouldn't be this controversial. Like it shouldn't. It's just people wanting to live their lives the way they want to live it. I mean, it's almost something very Republican about that, right? I have a very strong belief on why and how this is coming to pass. And I don't. And one thing I want to point out is when I compare these people to Nazis, I'm not being I'm being extreme, like they're Nazis. Like these people get this idea in their heads that a Nazi is something like in a Marvel movie. Like if you watch the Captain America, like the Nazi is like a guy whose head is a giant villain skull, and they're an insane genius. Most Nazis were just fucking bureaucrats, and the entire purpose of it was for a small group of people to get as much power concentrated into as few hands as possible, so that they could live opulent lives. And I believe just 100% that's what's going on with the Republicans. It's I would say that most of them don't believe in a fucking word they say. They don't care.
You talked about Bill Lee, right? So all of them, you said he was like an off-brand Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis, they're all they're vying for second place. None of them want to take on who their real competition is, who was the president. they don't want to take him on because they know they're going to get annihilated. They know he runs a cult. So what they're doing is they're vying for second place with the hope that when he does exit the scene, they'll inherit his his followers. They're so that's why they're doing these anti-trans things, or they're fighting Disney, whatever it is. They're thinking, if I could get these crazies to at least know my name, then when Mango Mussolini passes away, which is really what their only, you realize that their only hope is that this guy, when he leaves, they can't. I mean, look, he could run and lose again. And what do you think, he's going to go away? He's not going to run again in 2028?
I mean, God, I find it hard to believe that he will still be able to speak.
Why would he, though? I mean, first of all, that's the other thing. People like him live forever. You just have to, it's very easy to be healthy when you do not care about another human being.
It is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you have, like, when you're, whatever, even if something natural happens in your life, like, it's understandable that your parents will die before you, right?
Yeah.
But it's still painful. You expect it your whole life, kind of. It's terribly painful because you love your parents, right? But if you don't give a shit about anybody else, that stress never accumulates in your life. So that's the health plan. That's the asshole health plan. Like, just don't care about anything except yourself.
Such a good point about him. And I've met other people like him too, or, like that have that kind of like sociopathic, narcissistic kind of mentality, where they create anger and pain and chaos everywhere they go. Everywhere they go, like, people are so fucking stressed out, and like, and they're getting heart disease from just being around them. But they're unaffected because they don't care about you or anyone. They don't feel. So
yeah, I know it's
so look, their heart keeps beating.
he sent a mob of people to the Capitol, right? And then 5 or 6 of them died. I forgot how many. I mean, look, if Taylor Swift, forget it. If Hannah Montana and what's her name, Miley Cyrus, if she had a concert in DC on the mall, right?
Yeah.
And then said at one point, all right, we're going to march over to the Capitol and we're going to fight like hell, and 6 people died.
Yeah.
What jail would she be in is the only question for the rest of her life. If you had a party at your house and 6 people died, guess what? You'd probably be in jail. It's insane that he's not, but part of the reason why he's not is he doesn't give a shit, and he doesn't feel any guilt. And it's just, people go along with it because, I mean, he's not admitting he lost. He's not admitting he has any responsibility for sending those people over there to die. Well, even when
we're recording this right after he lost the civil suit. So he was basically convicted of rape in a civil case, but in a way it's meaningless. He was fined $5 million for raping that woman, and he is notorious for not paying for anything. And then he immediately went on CNN, and CNN platformed him, where he went on stage in front of a crowd and bragged about what he fucking did.
I didn't even watch it. I didn't even watch it. I think he was convicted of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, right? Found culpable. It's a different, because it's civil. It's a different terminology.
Semantics.
Yeah, he was found culpable by a jury of his peers of sexually harassing that woman. I think that's what it was.
Well, it's like when OJ lost the civil suit, where he was found for wrongful death.
And then he went, my understanding from Twitter is he went on and he joked about her. He kind of made fun about her. And the audience laughed because they're there. Somebody said something about Brexit that's interesting. And he called the host a nasty woman, and he went through his whole hits, right? But somebody was talking about Brexit. I forgot, a British comedian, I forgot his name, and he goes, everybody's like, it's just racist that voted for Brexit, and I would like to correct that. It's not. It's assholes also voted for him. For Brexit. So it's the same thing with Trump. Like, it kind of, if you like being an asshole, and there are people who like being assholes, there's something. It's like rooting for the criminal, for the bad guy in a movie. And there's a lot of people who like that, who just like, he's hurting the people I hate, and good for the people that are against me. or whatever you feel, and that's it. And I don't look. One of the things that I'm sort of covering in this special is I was in New York during the pandemic, so I was in this apartment, and like 6 blocks away from me were freezer trucks with bodies. And for at least the first good half of the pandemic, um, the national media, all you could hear was New York is dead. New York is dead. New York is dead. It's just crackheads stabbing each other. It's just, it's dead. It's over. It's never coming back. And we were like, Jesus Christ, like the glee that the rest of the country had towards us, towards our suffering. I was like, man, I did not know the rest of the country hated us this much. Like it was, and it still didn't hit like the rest of the country in the beginning. So you didn't, a lot of people didn't really even know what was coming, but they saw New York was suffering and fuck them because they're a bunch of whatever.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in Nashville, the dichotomy that you're seeing between the rest of the state and Nashville is really something that America was founded on. America, the guys who founded America, right? The slave owners and the business people who weren't slave. Like you got Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
Alexander Hamilton, George Washington. All right. You have city dwelling people, right? People in Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. Right. And then you had large landowners who lived in the country. And in order for them to strike a deal about creating a nation, right, they had, which was a democracy, the guys in the country who didn't have a lot of votes, right, they didn't have a lot of people. They were like, well, we're just going to get outvoted by all the city dwellers all the time. So they had to strike a deal where you had this dual parliament where each state has two, and the districting was done in such a way that the country people, the country folk, had as much of a overrided the city dwelling people, and that dichotomy still exists. That's why every state in the union, the capital is not the biggest city usually. I think Nashville is the weird one, right? I mean, New York has Albany, California. It's not San Francisco. It's not L.A. It's not San Diego. It's Sacramento. It's always a small town. And that's to put the seat of power where the landowners can control it. And that's why the conservatives got to kind of have a larger share of the vote or the larger share of the power, even though they're much smaller concentration of the people. So as the internet and as ways of people living started changing, more people moved into the cities. So you have these like really dense populations where the number of votes outpaces the others, but because the power structure was set up by, to make sure that George Washington didn't lose his farm, right, or whatever.
Yeah,
that's why you're getting, steamrolled by people who live in exurban areas and by their votes. It's very weird. You can't. Yeah,
they're on a steady diet too of. I mean, not anymore, thankfully, but Tucker out here going like, imagine, if you will, the cities are making all of your children trans. Well, you don't have to imagine it because it's happening. Like that's every fucking night. Like
and I gotta be honest,
viewers.
And I gotta be honest with you. Look, he has polluted so much of the discourse, and just it's interesting. They were talking about what made him special. Like, why is he kind of more effective in that way? And it has something to do with the presentation. He's, the act he had, the bow tie or whatever. And, like he's very like boat shoesy. He's a rich kid, and he comes from like I have a friend who went to college with him, or at the same college, and I think it was Trinity. I think he went to Trinity College, and he goes, Trinity's basically a college for rich kids who couldn't get into the Ivy Leagues. That was so he was, he's a kind of like mediocre rich guy, right?
Yeah.
And he spent a lot of time in media, he was on CNN, MSNBC, eventually finding his niche, right? He eventually found this rage circuit on Fox. And the reason why he works well is he's kind of like this, he has this dweeby thing about him. I don't know what that is also. That's also, I don't know if it's like, him and Ben Shapiro both have a weird high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
And they kind of seem like they can't really win in a fight.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're smart. They're not stupid. So I think their audience, when they're seeing somebody who's smart, they have to be weak. They don't want somebody who's, has got biceps. They want somebody who's smart, but I could kick his ass.
Well, here's the what I mean, why so many people say that Tucker Carlson finally being kicked off the air was probably one of the most severe blows to the white supremacist movement that's happened in years, and who knows how long since they've had a defeat like this. Because what Tucker was doing, or his writers and his staff, they would go to these, extreme white supremacist websites and podcasts and things of that nature that are not palatable to almost anyone, because it's too far out there, because they're literally saying we should kill all the Jews, and we should bring back concentration camps, and but what they do is, like, Tucker would go and his writers would go and they'd find the talking points, and then with Tucker with his dweeby voice and his like, I'm kind of like, I am kind of weak or whatever, and then he'd
sell it to the
he'd bring it to you in like, red pill his audience or whatever he wanted to call it, but by doing it he's not flexing, he's not it's not aggressive, it's just weird and dorky, and so when you hear it, you're like, it sounds like it might be news. It doesn't sound like, I'm listening to an Aryan Brotherhood like guy.
He has this aura of decency. I don't know, like the I don't care about this, but for his audience, if you look like that, then you can't. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just you're a harmless guy, right? Yeah. You look like your mom dressed you for Sunday school. That's kind of what he looks, almost boyish in his weird. He's not very. So he doesn't look threatening, and it's a good quote unquote vehicle for that message to middle America. But he's an elitist from freaking Connecticut or wherever he's from. He's a rich kid. He's not really a man of the people. And the thing that what I'm getting at is, like, when all those texts came out and those emails where basically you see that, I mean, it's black and white, admissible evidence to court. They're not denying it, that he doesn't believe any of this.
Yeah.
That he's full of shit, that he knows that his audience are idiots. I mean, that's how he treats them.
Yeah.
He knows they're stupid. He knows they don't want to hear anything different. And he's going to continue lying to them and just feeding their rage cycle. And he doesn't believe any of it. He hates Trump.
Yeah.
Hates him. I mean, he called him demonic. I don't like Trump. I never thought he was a demon. Like, the guy hates. There's all these emails where they're going back and forth. Everybody in Fox, they're going back and forth where they're like, just another week, please God. Basically they were counting off the days until Biden took office, and we never have to deal with him again. Like, they couldn't wait to get rid of him, all of them. And then they'd go at their, they exchange text messages like that, and then they go in front of the camera and do the exact opposite. They would play these roles. They're just acting. And this whole Fox News thing did kind of, it destroyed a lot of relationships. There's a lot of, I can count like 5-6 people off the top of my head who can't talk to their parents.
Yeah. Well, this is actually, I will say this might be controversial to some people, but I think it honestly, it lands somewhere on the side of, I think, possibly a positive outcome of this entire, like from like the 2016, starting there, especially. And that's when I felt like when Facebook was practically murdered. Like, that's basically when Facebook stopped working. And I was, very vocal. I was still using Facebook at the time, and I was like very vocal about. I was like, Donald Trump's a fucking white supremacist piece of shit. You're a fucking idiot, if you believe it. And the thing is, there were so many people. I had no idea that I was associating with that many, like, extremely vile, fucking racist, fucking nuts. And they all came at me at first, being like, oh, fuck you, you're, but before long, I had been blocked by who knows, maybe like 30 people, and unfriended by about 200 people. And I was like, good fucking riddance to these toxic sacks of shit.
I could sort of, in the past, look, I mean, to give as much, benefit of the doubt to people, like when he started, I understand you could sniff it a mile away, and a lot of people could, but I could understand how people were like, oh, come on, he was on TV, he's the apprentice guy, he's not, especially people not from this area of the country, like everybody in New York knew he was a sack of shit. Like there's not a single, like most people in New York, I know people who grew up with, or I've talked to people who grew up with him, who went to school with him, the guy's nuts. All right. He's so we could understand how people in the middle of the country who just used to see them on like The Apprentice and like, well, he can't be racist. I mean, Omarosa and whatever, like I could see how in the beginning there can't, but once he gets but now at this point after like January 6th, I mean, you really gotta. And then there's people who just throw up their hand. I don't know. Well, he's a Republican candidate, and I vote Republican. It's my team, and I don't give a shit. And like, well, we'll see. I don't know. I didn't want to kind of turn this into a thing about him.
Yeah, but, we did kind of go down that road. No, but I agree with you. I agree with you that, and also there are people who did make that decision and then have since,
there are enough of them
that, but what I was saying, what was happening with me at the time, this is mostly, parasocial. These aren't people that I was really spending a lot of time with around like face to face anymore. These are all people that I had like worked with at a job or like had played played a sport on a team with them at one point, like just all, how Facebook is just, you keeps you all these people in your lives that otherwise wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But like the viciousness with which they would come at me when I would just point out things like, hey man, I think this guy's a rapist. Hey, I think this guy's like a white supremacist. Hey, I think this guy's going to try and just give tax cuts to the rich. Like,
well, I mean that a lot of people are on board. A lot of them would do that. Like that's a typical sort of right wing thing that they would give tax cuts to the rich, and that's like, okay, if people want to vote for that, they want to vote for that. But I think that they sort of ascribe to him. I mean, look, he lives on the nexus of America's two major religions, which is money and fame.
Yeah,
he has inhabited that since his early days in the 80s. He wanted to be there. People think he has more money than he has, and people think he's more famous than he is. And that's what people believe. And if you take that away from them, it's very hard to tell people that. I've talked to like people who think he's like one of the richest guys in America.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, like if Zuckerberg woke up tomorrow with Trump's money, he'd jump out of a window. You know what I mean? Like there's so many. He's not even in the top 10 real estate developers in New York. Like it's. But if you tell people that, what do you mean? The thing I watched on TV for the past 20 years has been bullshit. It's very difficult to bring people out of it. I get that they were rolled. I'm not. I don't want to blame. Not everybody's got the time and energy to like dissect everything. But what I was sort of getting to is with Tucker, like it's worse that when those emails came out, like at least before those emails came out, that he doesn't really believe in anything, that he's really against Trump, that he before you knew for sure that it was an act. I mean, we all thought so.
Yeah.
But before, like now I have it black and white. You thought, well, at least there's a chance he believes this, and if that's what he believes, that's then sort of the fact that he's been spewing this out and making people hate each other. It's just what he believes. But no, he doesn't believe it. Yeah. It's worse. It's way, way worse. Like if he was a true believer, you kind of would be like, well, whatever. You can't, he's just mental or whatever. But the fact that he doesn't believe any of it, that's kind of like, I don't know. The interesting thing is, where the depressing part is, that there's a lot of people who read that, who kind of know that it's true, and just kind of shrug, well, whatever. I just want the content, I just want the drug.
That's the thing, is he was, no matter how you slice it or what his personal beliefs are, he was the mainstream outlet for these like very fringe ideas. Because the only other place, if you want to get this shit, you got to go on VDare or 4chan, like these, really weird corners of the internet that a normal person's not going to go to. And like we said earlier too, like speaking about, certain generations, if you're a much older person, like, 70s, 80s, you're not likely to be on 4chan. Like,
I don't know what it is. I know I've heard of it, but I don't know how to get on it. And I sort of, I'm okay with the internet. I can, but it's the same thing with, I think now he's trying to be on Twitter. He's like, he's trying to do like a TV show on Twitter. I don't know if he's how many people he's gonna, like older, people in their 60s are not gonna like turn on Twitter and watch. So I don't know how much success he's gonna have with it.
Here's what I don't get, and I wonder if you have an opinion about this. A guy like that, he had a run he never should have had. a good run, millions and millions and millions and millions. His bank account's got to be just loaded. Grip. He's probably got to have a dope house.
Yeah.
He probably has a boat. He's got, why doesn't he just fucking say, I did, cut your fucking losses. You're done. Like you made $100 million. You're good. Stop.
I got to be honest with you. I'm going to go back to 2008, just because I lived in, so I lived in New York. I live in New York, and in 2008 is when the banking crisis happened. And if you remember, the banks got bailed out. They all got their money, and we all, that's the short story of it. All right. I mean, there was a lot of bankers who got fired and whatever, but most of them got, a lot of them got their bonuses. A lot of them they kind of walked away with the money.
Yeah.
And what happened afterwards is you had unemployment happened. A lot of people lost their jobs. And then these guys who walked away with the money felt wounded. Like the money wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Because if you talk to people in 2007, finance bros were gods. They were like, they called them masters of the universe, like a Gordon Gekko type, they were supposed to be very smart. The idea was that they were super smart and they worked really hard.
Yeah.
And then when the banking crisis happened and you looked into it for like 2 seconds, you realized these guys are not that smart. None of this is that complicated. It's just it was a kind of scam. How did they miss it? This is so stupid, right? And they lost all the respect. They had the money.
Yeah.
But they lost the respect. And you realize how much that respect is, like what you're saying, why doesn't he just walk away on a boat and enjoy his life? People don't really live for that.
Yeah.
Most people can do that, but a lot of people can't. A lot of people can't can't just walk away into the sun. Look, there's a lot of reasons why people are on TV and why they want to be on TV. And if you're a millionaire, that's the thing, a millionaire, billionaire, whatever you want to call it. If you have a lot of money, the thing you want is fame, because that's why people buy Ferraris. It says, I have money. I have a lot of money.
Look at me.
But if you have fame, you almost don't even need money. We have your table right here, sir.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's a currency.
Yes. We have a table right here, Bad Bobby.
Yeah, whoever you are, you walk in. Like if you're on TV, whatever, you could be the weatherman in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
You probably have more cachet in some way. Like people say, hi, you're a local celebrity, right? You have more cachet than the guy, who maybe is a billionaire that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of these people, they want the fame. That's why Elon Musk is out of his mind.
Yeah.
Because look, I sometimes I was really trying to be amicable with this guy on Twitter.
Impossible.
Who comment. I have nobody on Twitter. I was exactly, but that launch happened, right?
Oh, where it blew up.
It blew up, and
I love that.
And everybody. So again, I'm not diminishing the difficulty and whatever, but I was annoyed at how the media all of a sudden, well, things are hard, and great job, keep trying. Like, well, no, let's examine it a little. Let's, I don't know if you noticed the launch. If you notice how much debris was shot up, that just, like, I was reading somebody saying that just shouldn't have happened. They kind of rushed it. They kind of, but nobody's allowed to criticize Elon. And on Twitter, I had no idea how deep the Twitter, there's people who adore him, who just will not let a single point of criticism, fall on him.
That's the thing. I was trying to be amicable about that as well. Because I just commented. I was just saying that Nazi rocket science has been in decline since the 1940s, and these Elon
is this
guys,
where you're going? That's not terribly amicable, but and I get it. It's a good joke, but what I'm saying is, this guy started getting into me, and I kept on saying, I understand what you mean. I'm just saying I'm not. And then he kept on saying, you got to give him some credit, man. Look what he's done. I'm like, the dude is the wealthiest person ever to have lived. I think we've given him credit. Nobody's saying he doesn't deserve credit. But, can we review this? It's the biggest rocket to ever explode. NASA built 25 big rockets, and none of them exploded. And that was on a government budget. So it's not like it's impossible. It's not like he's doing something You know what I mean? That doesn't have some point of reference. It's not like we can't criticize him a little. Not every Tesla that came off the production line was perfect. It's like, but you can't. And I think that's what they want. That once you have so much money that, you know, worldly issues are not bothering you anymore, you can afford whatever. You don't have to worry about where's my next vacation, and then it's this. Then you get this level of you get this level of I want to be adored. I want to be, some people can go off in the sunset and just enjoy their life.
I think it's kind of like what I think about is like athletes that won't retire, like Tom Brady, and then it starts to become embarrassing for them, or even like Michael Jordan, like possibly one of the greatest, truly one of the greatest athletes to ever live, but he just kind of like kept on a little bit longer than and I mean whatever, like he was still fucking great even when he was falling off, but for some reason that makes sense to me. For some reason, as an athlete, I'm like, well, it's the game. They live for the game. And I can see what you're saying is that these mediocre white guys, the money's not the game. The game is that they found something that makes them seem special. And that's,
especially
they'll never be fucking Michael Jordan. They'll never be Tom Brady.
And especially if Michael Jordan, or athletes in particular have spent their entire lives doing that. So you almost understand that, and they have another half of their life to go.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the apprehension, like, shit, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? This is different. This is like they spent a lot of their lives trying to make money, trying to get successful, and then they want fame. Because again, there's people who are richer than some rich, famous people,
Yeah.
And a lot of the rich, famous people, like, I don't think there's necessarily a reason. What's the guy who owns the Dallas? What's his name? He was on Shark Tank and.
Oh, Mark Cuban.
Mark Cuban. There's no reason you should know Mark Cuban.
No.
Mark Cuban, you know who he is because Mark Cuban wants to be known.
Weirdly,
do you know what I mean?
He's like the least offensive billionaire I think I've ever.
I understand. Again, but he's known because he wants to be known. Trust me,
for sure.
Like people who are known, they do a lot in order to get there.
Yeah.
So it's not. I just think that it's a part of the madness, it's a part of, I think if you notice Elon Musk a lot, he tries to be funny. That's one of the tragic things. And he's not. I mean, I don't mean to, again, I'm not taking anything away from, he did a lot of good things. I'm not.
May I please just say one thing about, just because I have to, it's my favorite tweet I think I may have seen in the past year. And we were talking about being amicable on Twitter. And also, who knows, man, we might not have Twitter in a few months if Elon keeps doing what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
So he loves celebrities and he wants the celebrities to like him because that's clout. And he posted on to Tom DeLonge, the lead singer of Blink-182, and he went, "Hey, what's up, Tom?" And everyone can see that because it's Elon Musk posting to another celebrity. And Tom DeLonge wrote back, "Hi, I wish you would stop trying to make people like you." Like, I don't know if I'd ever seen anyone bodied that fucking hard in such a nice way. Like,
he's not fun. I mean, look, a lot of people aren't fun. It's not, but it's hard to be funny. But it's like this thing that he really, like, let's say do you know the thing, the Princess and the Pea? Do you know that allegory? Yeah. So the whole concept of Princess, for those of you who don't know, is like, it was like a fairy tale, right? Where a prince tries to find the perfect princess, and the way he does it is he puts her under a bunch of mattresses. Like she gets to sleep under, there's like 20 mattresses, and he puts a pea underneath the bottom one.
Yeah.
And if she wakes up in the morning and says, "How was your night?" And she says, "Oh, it was great," then she's not a real princess. But if she wakes up in the morning and says, "Oh, my back hurts," it was like, she felt that one pea, like that little granule bothers her.
That's an insane story. I'm sorry. It's been so long since I've thought about that. But it's fucking ridiculous.
But the concept is that basically that when you live such a comfortable life, anything, even a pea under 20 mattresses, can bother you. Yeah. Like, if that's the goal, especially in our consumer society, to arrange your life in such a way that everything is it's all just Miller time. It's all just milk and honey, and there's nothing bothers you. Then the fact that you're not the funniest guy in the room annoys you. and you have to spend $44 billion on a fucking social media platform that costs maybe 12 to try to make yourself funny. I mean, and he's human. Look, I'm not, one of the things that I think, they're all human. All these people are human, and we're all human, and we're subject to the same faults. And, he doesn't have anything that most of us don't have. So he's subject to the same, like, you get sometimes spoiled and lazy, and he does too. And when you're very, very wealthy, sky's the limit. So it's interesting to always try to see him be funny, and he just doesn't, he doesn't have a knack for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then people laugh. That's the saddest part, because he's the boss, and you gotta make him.
It's kind of satisfying. It's like in Boogie Nights, when Dirk Diggler became like the most famous porn star, but he wanted to be a singer, and he couldn't fucking do it, man. And that no matter how much money he threw at the record label, they couldn't make him sing good.
There's a great Nick Mullen, who's a great comedian. I don't know him personally, but I follow him, and he's got a great joke about Elon Musk. You guys can look him up.
Nick Mullen from Cumtown.
Yeah.
Nick's great, man.
Yeah, Nick's great, but yeah, these are all like things that I've been thinking about it during the pandemic. I don't really cover Elon so much in my special, but I sort of do cover getting older, and like I do cover living in Brooklyn, the shit that New York got during, like, living in this like, just the pandemic was happening, and then just hearing all the vitriol that New York got, and just like, we had like no sympathy. Like when 9/11 happened, because it was foreign terrorists, and because there was that thing, we had a lot of sympathy. Never forget. We had a lot of sympathy. Although this is the interesting thing. If 9/11 happened, like right now, like one of the things that like Alex Jones came about as a big, he started as a big 9/11 truther.
Yeah.
So even now, in a lot of the conspiracy theory that's taken over a lot of the right, even Trump said, we don't really know what happened on 9/11. It's an interesting
but we don't
thing.
Though. I'm honestly, man.
But not in the way he thinks,
for sure.
Not in the Alex Jones way. We don't, like,
jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams.
The mechanics of it, we know. But it's this constant, like, why are people prone to believing in conspiracy theories? And there's this, like, if you look at Rogan or Alex Jones, did you ever watch the documentary about I guess it was about cults or religions, or like, and they were explaining why some people are very prone to joining cults, and they were talking about actors in LA.
Yeah,
how LA is a big, it's always been, not only that, but also like other sort of.
Oh yeah, they got it all. They got
it all. That the crystals and whatever. And it's similar to conspiracy. It is kind of a conspiracy theory. And they said it's because a lot of people, if you spend your life, not going to school, not, you realize at some point, I've fallen back, not in the grades, but in life. And a lot of people that I know have, whatever, they're progressing in life. They're, or maybe you're doing well, but you feel like you're falling back,
Yeah.
Then this thing comes along and says, you don't have to study. You don't have to know what the mechanics of the world. You don't have to know physics and math and whatever. There's this whole other real truth. And the real truth says that, all you got to do is hold these crystals or whatever. It's a way of leapfrogging to the front of, to inhabit a universe in which, you really, the real truth, not your smart ass uncle or cousin who has a nice car and a nice house. He doesn't know shit. You really know what it is. And that's why it's always the drunk uncle at the end of the Thanksgiving, table. It's never the guy who is actually hosting the Thanksgiving, who has the food, who has the turkey. It's always the guy at the end with some theory about how it really works. And I think
I was gonna say too, like, that's how you develop an extremely large cult like MAGA too. Is you're like, well, all you have to do is be white, like, and then you're automatically superior.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite things to watch. Like one of my favorite reasons I like to watch things about the mafia, like the traditional mafia and like all that kind of shit. Or Boardwalk Empire, shout out Atlantic City, where you just were for a little stretch, is watching the like absurd level of racism between white guys at each other for being like a slightly different type of white guy in their opinion.
Yeah, and it's weird because now they've all kind of we've all agreed that like that or the society, quote unquote, has agreed which where the racial lines are. But yeah, those things move, and there's going to be a time like now. There's a lot like the guy I think I'm not sure if this is correct, but I think the guy who just shot up groups of people in Texas was kind of like a white supremacist, but he was Latino. Is that correct? Am I making a mistake?
I actually am not familiar with that guy. Yeah, that is a thing.
I don't know if that was exactly. It is a thing. I don't know if that was the guy or if I'm mixing. There's so many shootings, nobody can freaking keep up with it anymore. But it is a thing, and it is because and you can feel it within Latino community. Some people consider themselves more. I don't know if they'd say the word white, but they do consider themselves more accepted than others. And
there's a professor that might be coming on the podcast who has a whole thing on POC white supremacists. So it's a kind of a bizarre. I mean, shit. Who's that fucking guy? Kanye West was really, man. He put it into words himself. So I mean,
there you go. Yeah, there you go. Like a black Nazi sympathizer. Like it doesn't make sense. But he's got he really has, and he admits he has prescriptions and he's got issues.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to diagnose him, but give him a diagnosis. But I'm doing a bit in the special where I'm trying to. What are racists? Like racism? Yeah. When we were kids, the way they told it's just hate. That's all it is. It's just hate, and that's a very simplified version of what racism is.
Yeah,
hate is a big part of it.
Yeah,
but it's not just hate. Racism is a narrative. You have to. It's not random fucking hate. You have to hate the right people for the right reasons at the right time.
Yeah,
it's canon. Do you understand? There's a line of thinking in it. It's not.
It's like being into fucking Star Wars or Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
And having to be and if somebody else doesn't agree with you about what Aragorn's lineage is, then you're fucking.
Racism is hate nerds. That's what they are. They're hate nerds. You can't just show up to a Klan rally and be like, "Yeah, man, these fucking Belgians with their pole vaulting." Like, whoa, what the fuck are you talking about? No, not Belgium. We're talking about Mexicans right now, and these Irish people. Whoa. Some of us have families from Ireland. Yeah. Like you'd start hearing if you get the hate wrong, like if you mix them up, meaning like, I mean, all these Asians are lazy. You start the KKK guys go, no, actually Asians are not. They're very industrious. What they are is they're scheming. You'd start getting arguments with them where they both defend one race and it's fun to fuck with them like that. Yeah. Like if you could
they behave like a fandom. They behave like fandom of a fantasy novel series or.
They're hate nerds. It kind of makes sense that Kanye drifted into that because he is a nerd. He is a sort of very nerdy. Yeah, and he's just another fan fiction he walked into. If you go to a Klan rally or some white supremacist, like Proud Boy, whatever hate group, right? And you just go in there and you just reverse the hate, meaning like you just change the topic a little bit. They get annoyed. They get like you can't. Well, Mexicans, they're shitting on them, right? And then if you just stand up, yeah, man, Mexicans, they control the media. You're like, whoa, no, that's not the,
No, that's
can they start correct? Yeah. No, and then argue with them. Try to get them to discuss. No, I thought Mexicans control the media. No, that's the Jews. No, it's the Mexicans. There's a whole channel that's Mexican. You'd piss them off. They would get more pissed off about that you're fucking with their canon.
Yeah.
Than they would about you actually not being racist. It's
actually it's the Mexican Telemundo is actually owned by the Zionists.
Exactly. You would get they're all the comic book guy from The Simpsons, just with the in a SS uniform.
Dead up. They're the fucking comic book guy from The Simpsons with a fucking SS tattoo on their neck.
That's all they are. It's just, I mean, I always was surprised. Like, one of the things about Americans is how we are not aware of the world. Like, I have a friend who used to work, he works in Queens, and I think he worked at a hospital. He was anyway, and he was telling me like all these, because Queens is very diverse, right? And he was telling me about this guy who worked in a hospital who was racist, who, legitimately a racist. The guy, I think he was the technician. I don't know what he was. He was like a janitor or something. Sometimes he'd have like coffee with the guy. And he was old, like before retirement. This is years ago when racism was just the thing you thought was going to die out.
Yeah.
And this guy knew, I mean, he had no education, right? But he knew the difference, quote unquote, between Guatemalans versus Ecuadorians versus, Nicaraguans versus El Salvador. Like, most Americans can't name all those countries.
Yeah.
And this guy's he didn't go to school for this. He just learned through racism, through his various hate. And it's like this thing where
hate is an educational motivator, man.
Yeah, my friend was like, how did this guy, I mean, none of it's true, all of it is bullshit. All of his stereotypes were something that he picked up from, some other hate dude, before, but it was amazing that he could like differentiate between all, name all of it.
Also, I mean, like, that's being able to differentiate like people from different South American countries just on site. Like, you're right, the average American can't do that. Like,
no, and it's through hate that he managed, through stupidity. It's just, but yeah, they're hate nerds. They're just you have to hate the right people for the right reasons at the right time. You can't just go in randomly with your own little, I hate the whatever Norwegians because of X reason, because of whatever. They took all my herring. That's not what the Proud Boys are here for.
No, you can't hate the Norwegians, man, because they brought us
or whatever
Northmen
or whatever, or
Northmen, that fucking Alexander Skarsgård movie. I actually thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, that was violent. I saw that on a plane. I was like, Jesus
Christ, I was very sad to hear that the white supremacist movement decided to adopt that movie as one of like their movies. I was like, God damn it. Like, because I just thought it was generally cool. I thought it was cool when, like,
what about the white on white violence in that movie, and why aren't these people? But yeah, I think racists are basically hate nerds.
You heard it here first. Me and Sasha just solved racism once,
and everything is fine now. We welcome the age of peace and tranquility. I hope it is, actually. If it, you know what? If some kid's listening to this and actually goes, yeah, you know what? I mean, it's possible that we helped somebody.
I think we helped everybody. But hey, man, speaking of kids, dude, I've got a 1-month-old baby.
Congratulations,
man. And I have to be on a hard out on this particular episode, man. But before we go, let's please remind everyone.
Oh yeah. So it's Sunday, May 21st, New York City, at New York Comedy Club, 241 East 24th Street in Manhattan. Come to my, there's 2 shows, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. show. It's a taping of my special. The special is called Root for the Wind. This is Sasha Srbulj. Again, Sunday, May 21st, 5 p.m. and 7 p.m., New York Comedy Club. You can find all this information at my socials, my website, sashasrbulj.com, SASHASRBULJ.com, and Sasha Srbulj, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those.
Oh yeah, Sasha, always a pleasure having you on, man. Let's do this again soon, and let's solve another societal
ill. It'll be global warming next time.
Next time, guys, we're gonna fix global warming. Peace,
All
Sasha.
Right. Cheers.